For centuries, archaeologists and historians have given us a look into the past as to what life was like in past civilizations. They have excavated tombs, discovered ancient artifacts, and translated age-old books and scrolls to teach us about forgotten people. But there are some that have remained elusive to historians. They are ancient relics that we have some evidence to speculate about, but we're looking for the final piece of that puzzle. Get ready to dive into these ancient mysteries. This is the top 5 most searched for ancient relics. Number 5, the city of Atlantis. For the first ancient relic on our list, we look 2,400 years into the past. The first historical reference that we get about Atlantis is from Plato. Atlantis is actually described as a set of islands that were connected, interwoven with canals and moats. The buildings were made out of gold, silver, and other precious metals. At the middle was a great capital city. The city was allegedly gifted to and then occupied by demigods. Now, when we think of Atlantis and its legacy, we imagine a utopia, a perfect place to live, but Plato describes quite the contrary. Atlantis was a city that was advanced technologically, financially, and militarily, but they were overcome with their own wealth and power and became corrupt. Many different locations for Atlantis have been proclaimed, but the more likely candidate would be somewhere near the Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean Sea. Many people say that Atlantis is not real, since we have not found much evidence, but Atlantis could have been based off and inspired by a real city. Plato was known to be inspired by older stories and borrow tales from previous civilizations. Some scholars point towards older Egyptian tales such as the Thera eruption, the Sea People's invasion, or the Trojan War as possible inspiration. In the end, the ocean is massively expansive, and there is so much that we don't know about it. So, is Atlantis real? We may never know. Number 4, the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is the only ancient relic on the list that people have tried to create themselves. The first reference of the Philosopher's Stone can be dated back to 300 AD in a book about alchemy by Zosimus of Panopolis. According to Greek alchemy and philosophy, the stone is made up of prima materia, the 4 fundamental elements derived from a common source. The legendary stone is said to have the ability to turn base metals into gold, and it is called the elixir of life, holding the ability to heal diseases and achieving immortality. The alchemical process to create the Philosopher's Stone is called magnum opus, or the great work. Interestingly enough, some great minds of science have tried to pursue the great work, including names such as Roger Boyle and even Sir Isaac Newton. The stone has been sought after centuries, and its influence still lingers to this day. The first book in the world-renowned series, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, was actually inspired by the Great Stone and did originally have the title, The Philosopher's Stone. The stone has always been mysterious and may remain elusive for eternity. Number 3, the Ark of the Covenant. We would be remiss to not include the Ark of the Covenant on this list of sought-after relics. Also known as the Ark of Testimony, this ancient relic was originally referenced in the book of Exodus in the Bible. It was the home where the 2 stone tablets with the 10 Commandments were safeguarded and kept. The Bible describes its appearance being covered on all sides with gold, in which was a golden jar holding the manna, and Aaron's rod which budded, and the tables of the covenant. When it was being carried, the ark was always to be concealed, even from the eyes of priests and the men that carried it. There are many theories as to where the ark is located currently. In 587 BC, the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem and Solomon's temple. There is no record of where the ark was taken after conquering of the city and temple. Some have theorized that it's southeast of Jerusalem at Mount Nebo. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church claims to have possession of the ark. Other possible locations are Rome, France, and even allegedly in King Tut's tomb in Egypt. Hundreds of books and documentaries have been based on this fleeting ancient relic. One thing is for sure, whoever discovers the location of the ark will surely place their name in the history books for centuries. Number 2, the tomb of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is arguably one of the most powerful and influential figures in the history of humankind. He was responsible for leading the Mongol Empire to become the largest contiguous empire in history. He is one of the most controversial men. He was responsible for killing millions of people, but he is also credited for sustaining a cohesive political environment for trading in Asia and Europe. When he died, he was buried in an unmarked grave, per his request. Presumably, he was buried in his home, Kentel Imeg, and somewhere near the Onan River. Legend has it that the funeral escort that carried him to his grave killed anyone in their path, killed the slaves that built the tomb, and then killed the soldiers who killed the slaves. Many stories and rumors have been claimed about this burial place. Some say that the river was diverted over it, so that it would be buried deep beneath the water. Others say the horses stampeded over his grave, trees were planted over top of it, and that permafrost played a major role in the hiding of the grave. However, in 2004, remains of Genghis Khan's palace were unearthed, and the research team that found this believed that the grave of Genghis Khan is nearby to that area. Now, researchers are using drones and satellites to try and locate the burial site. This ancient relic might actually be the most probable to be found in the near future. Honorable mention, the tomb of Queen Nefertiti. Before we get to number 1, we thought it would be appropriate to give an honorable mention to another burial site. Queen Nefertiti was an Egyptian queen, wife to Akhenaten, who was pharaoh during one of the most illustrious and wealthy times in Egyptian history. There is also a possibility that she even had a brief reign as pharaoh. But archaeologists have still not been able to identify her tomb or burial, and the same goes for any of her children and her parents. Her remains are rumored to be stored somewhere beneath King Tutankhamun's tomb. For now, her burial site is yet to be identified. Number 1, the Holy Grail. What list about ancient relics would be complete without mention of the Holy Grail? This legendary grail is supposedly the cup that Jesus used at the Last Supper. Other legends say that it is also the cup of Joseph of Arimathea, used to collect Jesus' blood at his crucifixion. The ancient relic has an infinite amount of rumored stories and locations, and its history is embedded deep into literature, dating all the way back to medieval times. During these medieval ages, great tales of heroism were written about knights and kings in search of the legendary Grail. One legend has it that on the spot where he buried the Grail, the water runs red because it travels through Christ's blood, though scientists agree that this is just the effect of red iron oxide in the soil. Others have theories that during the Crusades, the Knights Templar found it and hid it somewhere secret. And of course, the legendary tales of King Arthur mentioned of a holy grail that was able to cure all wounds and diseases and grant everlasting life. 2 Spanish historians claim to have had the original grail at a church in León in northern Spain, and scientific dating actually showed that it was made between 200 and 100 AD. So it could potentially be the one, but there may not be a way to prove it. Hundreds of claims have been made that the true Holy Grail was discovered, so it has become a controversial area. Regardless of whether this artifact will ever be found, it continues to fascinate millions upon millions of people over the course of history. Well, there you have it. You are now ready to take on ancient history and search for these fascinating relics. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, we would love for you to give us a like. Let us know in the comments which ancient relics we should have mentioned, and we always love a new subscriber. See you next time.